Hello, my name's Tuppence. I'm going to be using this really cute turtle mould. It creates a box with the lid as the shell. My videos of late have been ocean or beach themed, so this is going to fit into that theme as well. Now for the lid, I want to use some of these gorgeous shell pieces. I think these are meant for nail art, but I'm going to use them to create a mosaic on the shell. And then the base, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that yet, but I will find something to do with that. So I'm just going to tuck that over to the side. I'm going to concentrate on this first. And I've got some high viscosity UV resin. This is by JDiction. And that is going to be the resin that I'm going to use as well. That is also going to be by JDiction. So I want to use that to stick these pieces in and just create a mosaic pattern within the shapes that are in the mould. So I think these are hexagons. Yes, they are six-sided. So I'm going to put a little bit of UV resin down and spread that out. And the reason that I am using the high viscosity resin is that being a little bit thicker, it shouldn't immediately pool into the middle. Because the shell is slightly curved, it is going to want to run down and just collect in the lowest point, which will be the middle. So being thicker, hopefully I'll have a little bit more time to lay down the shells and arrange them so that they form one layer within each hexagon. I've got quite a few colours to choose from, so I'm not sure which colour I'm going to start with. I think I'll go with the pink. Pop that in the middle. Now these are of varying sizes. They're really thin, but some of the pieces are really large and some small. So I'm going to try and fit these together a little bit like a jigsaw puzzle or a mosaic, which is actually what I'm going to be doing. So I'm just going to try and fit these in as best I can so that I can fill as much of the hexagon as possible. I'm going to need enough resin so that I have a layer underneath them, otherwise I'm going to end up with holes on the outside of the shell. But the more resin that I put in, the more chance I have of everything sliding down into the middle. So it's going to be a little bit of a balancing act. This is going to take a little bit of time, so I'm going to speed this up, put some music on, and I'm going to give this turtle an iridescent shell full of shells. Using my UV torch to set these temporarily so that they don't move around, but I am going to put them under my dual-sided lamp and cure them properly. I've cured all of these shells in place underneath my dual-sided lamp, so they're fixed in, and now I've mixed up some JDiction High Gloss Epoxy resin. I'm going to add that to the shell, but before I do, I just want to give this a quick spray of isopropyl alcohol, because I can imagine that there might be a few parts of the shells which don't have UV resin under them, and bubbles are likely to leak out of those. Alright, now that I've sprayed that, I'm going to pour this resin in. And I want to just about cover all of the shells that I've put in there. I'm not filling this up to the top. I need to let this layer set before I add something else on top of it. So I just need a touch more. All right, that's just coming up below the midway point where it starts to fold over. So I'm going to need to leave this, let that completely set. I will put the rest of this resin in something else. I will need to mix up some more resin when I add my next layer, so I will do the bottom of the turtle when I get to that point because I want to add something into that as well. So I just need to leave this to cure and I will be back to add my next layer. Now I want to add some iridescent film. This is floristry gift wrap and I've just cut the size that I need and I'm going to crinkle this up so that I get some nice wrinkles on it, and then that will give me a multitude of colours. So I'm just going to tuck this in so that I can see how it fits. Now there are some sort of supports on the inside of this mould because the shell has scalloped edges, so I can't get this film all the way to the edge, but it is almost there. I think that will do. Alright, so I need to fix this in place. I'm going to pop some resin down first. I have mixed up a little bit more of the JDiction High Gloss. So I'm going to pour that in and I want a layer, a nice layer on top of the shells. Not too thick because otherwise the film will float. Let me just catch that drip. Right, I'm just going to swirl this around so that it reaches the edges. That's nice and flat. And now I can tuck this in. Let me just grab my stir stick and then I can poke that underneath. All the way around. I want it to be nice and flat. So I'm going to start pushing against the middle. I'm literally squeezing the resin out from underneath it. And hopefully that will stop any bubbles from being underneath it as well. So I'm just pushing that resin all the way to the side and then it can flow over the top. And it should pin down the cellophane so that it doesn't float around. It hasn't really got anywhere to go, so it should be fine. All right, let's just bring that resin back over the top. Just spread it out a little bit. Okay. I think I've got most of it back on top. I'm going to leave this, let it settle for a little bit, and I'll see if I need to add anything later. But for now, I want to work on the turtle. And I'm going to be adding these turquoise chips to that. So I've got my resin. I'm just going to dump a load of the stones into that resin and give them a stir around to make sure that they are all fully coated. You can see there are some bubbles rising up. So I'm just going to stir that up. Okay. Right, let me clean off my stick. And I want to, actually I'm going to use a spoon. I want to put them into the feet so that I actually have more stones than I do resin at the moment. So I'm just going to try and hook those out and I'm going to fill the whole of this turtle with these stones. Trying to just hook out the stones and not too much resin, but as you can see there's quite a lot of resin in here. It's almost full to the top, so I'm just going to try and scoop some out And then I can pour in some of these stones. Now the only issue is that these aren't covered in the resin beforehand, so I will have to try and push them underneath the surface. I want quite a lot of stones in here. I don't mind a few gaps because I am going to cover the back in a little while, but it's also why I don't want too much resin. So let me just try and push these under the surface. There isn't much room from the base of that bowl in the middle to the top of the mould, so some of these are going to be sticking out. I'm going to do my best to try and arrange them so that I have the flat ones there, but some of the stones may end up sticking up above the surface. I am going to be adding another layer on top of this, and if there are any stones that stick up after that, I'm just going to have to put some silicone feet on him. All right, I think I have them mostly sorted out. That's not looking too bad. Let me just do a quick clean up. So the resin in this lid has had time to settle. I do still have a small area that isn't covered up. So let me just see if I can take some of this clear resin out. And there we go, that's enough. All right, I am going to leave these to cure. Time for the last layer. I've mixed up a little bit more resin. So I've only got 40 mils here. I'm not really sure how much I'm going to need. I want to top up the rest of the lid, and I'm going to keep it clear so you can see those colours. But I also want to have a little bit left to put some on the back of the turtle. So just fill this up, and it does not look like I'm going to have enough for the turtle. All right, I'm just going to take my stick, and because this lid is folded over so much, I'm going to pull it back slightly. I'm taking care not to break the seal around the resin that is already cured in there, but I just want to let the air out because I don't want any bubbles. All right. And it looks like I have got a bubble up there. Is it a bubble? I don't know if that is a bubble or a blob of resin that is already cured. It doesn't want to move, so maybe it is resin. I don't know. Try and give it a squeeze. Oh, there's a bubble there. Come on, out you come. It does not want to pop. I'll take my stick and smack it. There you go. All right. I don't think that is a bubble. It doesn't seem to want to move. So it is probably a blob of resin that has got cured from when I put the first layer in. So I'm just going to leave that there. I can top this up the rest of the way. And it looks like I am going to have to make up a little bit more resin. That's okay. Yeah, I'm definitely going to use all of this. In fact, actually, I need a little bit more for this. It isn't quite to the top of the mould. So I'm going to go ahead and mix up a little bit more resin for the turtle and to finish topping this up. Okay, I've just topped up the shell, and with the rest of this resin I am going to add some gold mica powder. So this is from Mould, and it's a gorgeous glittery gold. I just need to put a scoop in and get that mixed up. And I'm going to use this to back the turtle. You should see it through all of the gaps in the stones, and it will give me that extra layer just to cover up some of the stones that are sticking out on the back. So let me just get that mixed in. Okay, that's fine. And now I need to coat the back. Now the problem is that this is already pretty full. I really do not have a lot of room. This is going to dome the back, so I am going to have to be really careful not to overflow the edges. So I'm just going to pour this pretty gently and let it flow out to the sides. All right, almost there. Let's just fill that bit in. And it is naturally working its way to the edge. Just a little bit more in the head. Because of the camera angle, you really can't see how domed this is. All right, I think that is enough. it looks like it's covered those stones. Now if it'll just stay like that. Now I have put this on my G3 because I do want to move it. I'm going to try and move it really carefully, and then I'll be back when this is all set. Everything's cured now, but I think you can see that I've had a little bit of a disaster. So I moved this over to the side so that I could carry on working, and I didn't check that it was level. So everything has just slid off the turtle. And that means I've got a bit of cleanup to do, but it's also exposed some of the stones that are in there. They aren't too badly exposed. In fact, you really can't see them very well. So yeah, I think it will be all right, but it does mean I'm going to have to do some cleanup. So let me get this out of the mould. It is pretty easy to demold. They're very soft and supple. So let me just pull this away, and then I can have a look. There we go. Fold that back the right way round, and the mould's nice and clean. I do love these stones. I'm going to have to get some more. I love the colour of them, and I really love the way that that looks. I'm just a little bit bummed about this, but it is still pretty soft. This is about 18 hours, 20 hours afterwards. So it's set enough to demold, but it's still going to be soft enough for me to actually remove this extra pieces. I'm going to have a go with my craft knife, just see how easily I can cut this. Not the safest thing to use, but it's just too thick to use anything like a deburring tool. If I can get rid of most of the bulk, then I will be able to use a file to get rid of the rest of it. So it is slicing through. It's not easy, but I think it is going to be doable. However, I'll continue with that later. Let's get this shell demolded, and I can see what this looks like. I'm dying to see what the shells look like. Oh, that does look like it was a bubble. What I thought was a blob of resin is in fact a bubble that stubbornly refused to move itself. Not to worry, I can fill that with a little bit of UV resin. Let's just get all of this out and hope that I don't have any holes or bubbles on the other side. Oh, I do not. That looks really pretty. I am pleasantly surprised. That is nice and smooth, and yeah, I love the look of it. So pretty. You can just see the iridescent film through it. So it looks just as nice on the back. And that looks great. He does look like he's got a halo at the moment, but I'll take care of that in a minute. I am so happy with that. I love it. In an effort for health and safety, I was able to use the world's smallest pair of scissors to get rid of most of the overspill. And then I used a file to go around and just tidy up the edges. I have another little repair that I need to do, and that is to fill this hole. So I'm going to use some UV resin, and this is the Let's Resin variety because I've run out of the other one. I'm almost out of this one too. So I'm just going to put a tiny blob in there, and I'm going to keep filling this up in stages until I get it pretty flat. Just need a microbrush stick, and I'm going to spread that out. You don't want to overfill it. You do want to keep filling it gradually, otherwise you'll just end up with a really big blob. Okay, just spread that out. So this is going to kind of flatten it. I'm going to use my torch to set this, and then I can add another layer on top, and when I'm finished I will pop everything underneath my UV lamp and cure it properly. And this is what it looks like when it is all finished. So this took 3 layers to get to this stage, and I've got a nice rounded edge that isn't sticking out too much. It is still visible, you can see some edges, but it's not going to be sharp and it's not that noticeable. Alright, so I now have my shell. I'm really happy with it, but I think it needs a little bit of extra bling. So I have this Rhinestone Ribbon that is self-adhesive. I've just cut off one of the strips. You can cut them off individually or into individual stones. So I just need to peel the backing off this, and I think I need to take my gloves off to do that. That makes it so much easier for me to take off the backing tape, and I just need to lay this down where I want it to go. It's a very durable sort of gel tape that this sits on. And I can just keep adding strips, joining them up as I go round. So I'm just going to cut another layer off. There we go. And peel that backing off. And when I butt this up to what is already pressed down, you'd never see the join. So I'm just going to continue to go all the way around the edge until I get back to where I started. And unfortunately, it doesn't quite meet up. So I just need to snip off one stone and then I can squeeze that into the gap so that it looks like it continuously goes all the way around. The tape is pretty thick and it's exposed on the sides, so it's pretty sticky. I'm going to cover it with this mica powder. It's called Bluegrass and it's a very similar colour to the stones that I have in the rest of the turtle. Everywhere that the mica is going to touch the tape, it will stick and it will prevent it from being sticky any further. It's also going to change the colour of the stones a little bit. I'm using a brush to make sure that I get into all of the areas that I need to, and I can brush off any excess, and then the copy paper will pick it up. I can pop it back into the pot afterwards. I'm going to go all the way around and make sure that all of the sticky areas are covered. You can see that all the stones have turned slightly blue. I'm just going to take a soft makeup brush and I'm going to use that to remove any of the extra bits of powder. And that is now sealed with the powder and it shouldn't attract any more dust or dirt. I think I'm going to call this finished. I love the mosaic of shells on the top. It's so colourful and you can see that iridescent film through them, giving it even more colour. It's really pretty on the inside and the stones in the bottom, just with that hint of gold through them. I do wish that had been a little stronger, but it is nice and flat. The stones are barely peeking through and it doesn't make any difference to its stability. So I don't need to add anything on the bottom. I think this is going to live in my bathroom. I don't know what I'm going to put into it yet, but it could be a soap dish or something. I love it. I hope that you love it. If you do, please give me a thumbs up, comment, share, hype if you can, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't. It's free. You will really help me out and you'll be able to come back and see what I'm going to make next time. Until then, thanks so much for watching. Take care. Bye.